300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens emerged in East Africa with an unusual trait, a transformation in brain architecture unlike anything seen in the history of human evolution. The average brain volume was around 1350 centimeters cubic, not significantly larger than that of Neanderthals, 1450 centimeters cubic, or Homo heidelbergensis, 1200 to 1300 centimeters cubic. The difference lay not in size, but in internal structure and connectivity between brain regions. The prefrontal cortex, the center for abstract thought, long-term planning, and emotional regulation, began to play a dominant role. Language-related areas, such as Broca's and Wernicke's regions, grew more active, and synapse density increased. The brain didn't just store information, it began to analyze, synthesize, simulate, and imagine. Compared to other human species of the time, Homo sapiens demonstrated a completely new kind of cognitive behavior, the ability to imagine what did not yet exist, to question their own existence, and to construct mental models of the world. These capabilities were not clearly seen in Homo erectus, Neanderthals, or Denisovans, even though they also had large brains. This transformation wasn't random. Scientists believe it was the result of several converging evolutionary factors. First, the Pleistocene climate in Africa was highly unstable, with rapid cycles of wet and dry, hot and cold. This forced Homo sapiens to adapt quickly to a volatile environment, increasing evolutionary pressure on cognitive flexibility. Second, social structure grew more complex. Homo sapiens lived in larger groups, requiring cooperation, communication, and unwritten rules. To manage large group dynamics, the brain needed to perceive others' intentions, remember social relationships, and maintain shared beliefs, laying the groundwork for theory of mind and symbolic thinking. Third, genetic mutations may have played a triggering role. Certain genes linked to brain development, such as FOXP2 and SRGAP2C, appear in unique forms in Homo sapiens and are associated with language and synapse formation in the cortex. This phenomenon is known as the cognitive leap, a period when the brain didn't just grow in size, but shifted toward a new mode of thinking, flexible, abstract, layered, and capable of mentally simulating reality. From that point on, Homo sapiens began to build what no other species had, a world of symbols, stories, rules, rituals, and later, religion and culture. This marked the dawn of modern consciousness. No longer bound to the present moment, the Homo sapiens brain could now build models of cause and effect, forecast the future, and imagine the impossible. The brain was no longer just a tool for survival. It became the engine of a silent revolution, the revolution of thought. Part 2. Thoughts that never existed before. The difference between Homo sapiens and archaic humans didn't lie in tools. Neanderthals also made stone axes, hunted efficiently, and cared for the injured. But only Homo sapiens developed symbolic imagination, the ability to visualize things that didn't exist in the physical world. This was a cognitive turning point. Homo sapiens could recall past memories, predict future events, form hypotheses, and invent abstract concepts like ancestors, spirits, symbols, and laws. They told stories, not just to share facts, but to shape society, preserve collective memory, and create shared belief. Tales of ancestors, spirit animals, and tribal customs guided group behavior, reinforced leadership, and stabilized internal dynamics. Storytelling was inseparable from symbolic thought, one of Homo sapiens' unique traits. A painted handprint on a cave wall wasn't just decoration. It was a declaration, I was here. A drawing of a spirit animal wasn't only hunting advice, it was a sign of power, sacredness, or territorial taboo. Symbolic thinking created a new layer of reality, the world of meaning. In this world, objects gained metaphysical value. A rock became an amulet. A cave corner became an ancestral shrine. A sound became a sign from beyond. This was the foundation for structured language. Unlike instinctive cries, symbolic language let Homo sapiens convey spatial and temporal ideas, describe past events, explain causes, and express emotion indirectly. It also laid the groundwork for art. Cave paintings, carved figurines, and necklaces had no clear practical use, but carried messages of culture, belief, and group identity. This mental power did more than preserve memory. It recreated reality. A mythic beast could shift tribal behavior. A symbolic ancestor could unite hundreds of strangers into a single community. This became the strongest social technology of prehistory. Shared imagination. Homo sapiens didn't need to see a god. They only needed to agree one existed. This belief shaped rituals, authority, and moral codes. No other human species left evidence of a universal symbolic system like Homo sapiens. Some Neanderthal finds hint at isolated, abstract acts, but lack the structure needed to form a generational ideology. From symbolic thought came religion, ritual, art, folklore, law, and eventually science. All began with imagining what never existed and giving it a system of meaning. With this new mind, Homo sapiens didn't just react to the world, they reconstructed it on their terms. And that was a competitive edge no other species possessed. Part 3. The brain wasn't just for survival. Abstract thinking isn't necessary for survival in harsh conditions. Homo erectus survived for over 1 million years with smaller brains and simpler cognition, successfully hunting, crafting tools, and adapting. But Homo sapiens evolved in the opposite direction, toward imagination, systemization, and symbolism beyond survival. Why? Social structure may be the answer. The more individuals live together, the greater the need for systems to manage order, resource sharing, conflict resolution, and cooperation. In groups of dozens or hundreds, brute force was no longer enough. People needed a mental system to coordinate via language, memory, rules, and ritual. The Homo sapiens brain became the base of this system. It had to track social information, who's who, who's related to whom, who owes what, who broke which rule. It had to predict intentions, to avoid deceit, cooperate, and adjust behavior to context. This skill is known as theory of mind, the ability to infer others' mental states. It marked a major leap in Homo sapiens evolution. Humans didn't just observe behavior, they guessed emotions, motives, and expectations. This enabled them to predict social reactions, strategize interactions, and build trust at scale, a feat no other human species achieved beyond a limited extent. Collective belief became the glue for large groups, faith in shared ancestors, guardian spirits, or unwritten laws. Each person believed others believed, creating a web of mutual expectations. To sustain belief, humans shared memory. Rituals, symbols, oral stories shaped collective memory. The Homo sapiens brain evolved to store not just events, but social roles, cultural contexts, and symbolic meaning. The result: social units beyond kinship. Homo sapiens could cooperate with non-relatives if they shared belief, expanding group size from dozens to hundreds, even thousands later on. As society scaled, the brain adapted further. It developed emotional strategies: guilt, gratitude, pride, shame, honor, tools of internal behavioral control without external force. Unlike Homo erectus, who relied on instinct, Homo sapiens lived in a symbolic world where behavior was guided by mental models and shared rules. Abstract thought, unneeded for hunting, became vital in complex society. The ability to process social nuance meant greater reproductive and survival success. The evolution of the Homo sapiens brain wasn't about battling nature, but navigating one another. And in a world where strength wasn't always the winning trait, understanding others became the ultimate advantage. Part 4. The brain also knows fear. Abstract thought brought not just power, but a side effect: the ability to imagine unseen danger. In animals, fear is a direct reaction to present stimuli, but Homo sapiens could extrapolate from past data and construct future scenarios. Their brains didn't just react, they simulated death, hunger, abandonment, curses. Fear shifted from biological reflex to cognitive concept, prolonged, layered, and unbound by time or space. This was the cost of consciousness. anxiety about future events, sorrow from past memories, obsession with unprovable threats. The Homo sapiens brain became a risk analysis machine. It projected, it warned, it understood death, not as a reflex, but as an inevitable future. No other species knew it would die. Homo sapiens did. This awareness brought psychological instability. To cope, humans built mental systems: ritual, symbolism, myth, religion. Funerary rituals emerged to respond to loss. Spiritual symbols explained departure. Stories of the afterlife reduced neural stress. Symbolic acts, placing stones, painting signs, burying objects, had no direct utility, but soothed emotional turbulence. Spirituality wasn't superstition. It was a biological byproduct of a brain that fears. Emotional, memory, and social regions fired together. Death memories triggered grief, which reshaped community behavior. These became the basis for emotional support networks. Over time, humans built value systems around death: honor, sacrifice, devotion, transcendence. Ideas impossible without brains that imagined consequences and symbolized endings. Fear evolved into morality. Guilt, remorse, conscience, all emerged from a mind able to foresee long-term outcomes. Modern thought is thus a paradox. It enables civilization, but breeds anxiety, trauma, and psychological pain. No other human species left traces of elaborate burial rites like Homo sapiens. Graves with offerings, symbolic carvings, collective cemeteries. These show that fear of death became cultural logic, not just a reflex. This came directly from a simulation-capable brain, proving once again that intelligence is not a simple blessing. It is power, but also burden. Art 5. The mind is a weapon. Homo sapiens didn't dominate by physical prowess. They weren't stronger than Neanderthals, more enduring than Homo erectus, or faster than predators. But they had a strategic edge: symbolic thought, abstract imagination, and large-scale coordination. Their brains didn't just interpret reality. They constructed imaginary entities: gods, common ancestors, sacred lands, invisible laws. These ideas allowed social order beyond bloodlines. Belief in things that don't exist in nature, but exist in collective minds, was the lever for large-scale cooperation. Groups united by shared myths acted in sync, sacrificed for symbolic causes, and maintained stable hierarchies. This enabled flexible collaboration. Homo sapiens could hunt as a team, divide roles, ensure relative fairness, and manage conflict without constant violence. Unlike other humans bound to small kin groups, Homo sapiens expanded cooperation to hundreds or thousands via symbolic structure: leader symbols, territory symbols, belief symbols, rule symbols. The Homo sapiens mind became the core of collective survival strategy. They didn't need superhuman biology. They built TUIs, formed squads, shared data, and learned across generations. With abstract memory and language, Homo sapiens began vertical cultural transmission, where future generations inherited and improved on past knowledge, without starting from scratch. This was the difference between biological and cultural evolution. With the brain as an information carrier beyond DNA, Homo sapiens escaped genetic limits. They adapted via ideas, not just mutations. From 300,000 years ago, they spread beyond Africa, encountering other humans and ecosystems. Their ability to imagine, organize, and communicate enabled quick adaptation, competition, or absorption. Their expansion wasn't just migration. It was the spread of a thinking model. Symbolic social structure let them retain organizational power over long journeys and scarce resources. Strategic thinking wasn't just about hunting. It shaped information control, role coordination, and mental tools like early religion, status symbols, and ritual rules. At that point, the mind became a weapon, not for attack, but for control, cohesion, and influence. They used words to connect, images to instruct, belief to govern behavior. The brain worked as an operating system, updating social models, forecasting risks, managing relationships, and creating collective action templates. Its abstracting ability defined culture, morality, and behavioral norms before laws or states existed. Homo sapiens' weapon was never in their hands, it was in their minds, and once that mental system activated, it reshaped the world. When Homo sapiens knew they would die, but still told stories, built tools, taught children, and left marks, that was no longer instinct. That was will beyond biology. From that moment, the mind didn't just help Homo sapiens survive. It made them sovereign,